Practice of English grammar in use. Unit 2. Present simple. I do. Section C. By Raymond M. Murphy. Presenting by Noman Siddiqui. We use do or does or don't or doesn't to make questions and negative sentences. When we ask questions, we use do or does or bring do or does at the beginning of the sentence. And to make negative sentence, we use don't or doesn't just before the verb. We also use the present form of verb whenever we use do or does or don't or doesn't to make questions or negative sentences. See the examples below. First, see the negative sentence. I, we, you, they. I don't work. Here I am saying I don't work. It's a negative sentence. I do not work. We do not work, or we don't work. You don't work, or you do not work. They don't work, or they do not work. All are negative sentences. So when the subject is either I or we or you or they, we use do or don't. Do or don't. When negative sentence, we use do, don't. When question, we use do at the beginning. For example, see, do I work? Do we work? Do you work? Do they work? When it is question, we bring do at the first of the sentence or at the beginning of the sentence. Then we start by do and then subject, then verb, then a question sign. Do I work? Do we work? Do you work? Do they work? And when it is negative sentence, we just say don't before the verb. I don't work. Verb is work, so I don't work. We don't work. You don't work, and they don't work. But if the verb is either he or she or it, any one of these, then we use does. He doesn't drive. He doesn't work. He doesn't do. She does not work or she doesn't work. She doesn't drive. She doesn't do. It doesn't work. It doesn't drive. It doesn't do. It doesn't drive. It cannot be said. Similarly, does he work? Does she drive? Does she work? Does it work? So, do I go to playground regularly? Do I? Whenever we are using do to ask question, we have to use the present form of verb. So, when subject is I, we use do, and the present form of verb is go. Do I go to playground regularly? Do you like me? So subject is you, we use do to ask the question do you, and the present form of verb like me. Do we go there very often? Do we go there very often? Do you love fruits? Do you love fruits? Do they come regularly? They. So all are present form of verb. Now does he work? Let's say if in the present simple, when the subject is he or she, subject either he or she or it, we add s or es with the verb. For example, he works in a library. But when we are asking the question, when we are adding does, so we have to keep the present form of verb. Here you cannot add, when we are using does, you cannot add s or es with the verb. So does he work in a library? Does she drive in her own? Does this fan swing? So you cannot say does she drives. She generally when it is present simple, she drives in her own. But when we are asking a question and bringing does at the beginning, you cannot say she drives. Then you have to say does she drive in her own? Does he work in a library? Does this fan swing? Now see the negative sentences. I don't go to playground regularly. You don't like me. We don't go there very often. You don't love fruits. They don't come regularly. So whenever I, you, we, they, we use don't and the present form of verb. But when he, she or it, any one of these, he does not work in a library. She does not drive in her own. This verb does not swing. Here also, when we are used does not, we cannot say does not works. Generally he works, but when it is negative, he does not work. She does not drive. Generally it is she drives in her own. But when we are using saying negative sentence, she doesn't drive. This fan doesn't swing. I come from Canada. Where do you come from? I come from Canada. Where do you come from? So here we use do. So do you, then the come should remain come, present form. I don't go away very often. I generally don't go away very often. So here subject is I, so we use don't and the present form of verb go away. What does this word? This word means it. So we use does at the beginning of this word. What does before this word? We use does before this word. What does this word mean? Rice doesn't grow in cold climates. Rice is equal to it. So it does not grow or doesn't grow in cold climates. Why? Because rice grows in the rainy season. When we are saying positive sentence, we have to add s with the main verb. Rice grows in the rainy season. But when we are making negative sentence, we have to say rice doesn't, and in that case we cannot say grows. We have to say grow. Rice doesn't grow in cold climates. In the following examples, do is also the main verb. Sometimes do is also the main verb. See the examples. What do you do? Here the first do is the auxiliary verb which we bring before the subject do you, but the second do is the main verb. It means doing something. What do you do? I work in a shop. He always so lazy. He doesn't do anything to help. Here whenever we use doesn't negative sentence, we have to keep the simple form of verb do. Here do means doing something. He doesn't do anything to help. Julia doesn't drink tea very often. Now exercise 2.2. Here see what time the banks close. So the banks is equal to the number of banks. So do. What time do the banks close here? Number of banks means they. What time do the banks close here? I have a car, but I not oblique use. Here it is negative sentence. So I don't use it much. I don't use it much. I have a car, but I don't use it much. Where? Now Maria come. Where does, because Maria is equal to she, where does she come or where does Maria come? Where does Maria come from? Is she Spanish? Where does Maria come from? Is she Spanish? What you do? So what do you do? Because you, it is, this is a question and the subject is you, so we have to add do before the subject you. What do you then the main verb do. What do you do? I am an electrician. I am an electrician. Look at the sentence. What this word mean? This word is equal to it. What does this word mean? What does this word mean? Dave isn't very fit. He is negative. He does not do. He doesn't do any sport. It takes me an hour to get to work in the morning. It takes me. How long does it take you? It takes me an hour to get to work in the morning. It takes me an hour to get to work in the morning. How long does it take you?